Okay, welcome. We'll go ahead and get started. Lyndsey, if you want to unmute yourself, I'm going to share the screen here.
There we go.
Great. Yeah, I can hear you. Hi, Lyndsey.
Hi.
Okay, so Lyndsey's going to be looking at that chat bar in Zoom. If any of you want to let us know where you're located, how you heard about this, we're going to go ahead and introduce ourselves before we get started in this webinar. So I'm Craig Thomas McAdams, and this is Lyndsey McAdams, my wife. Let's see, we run a practice together called the Linden Tree and Supernova Counseling. We've been licensed professional clinical counselors working in the mental health here in New Mexico for about a decade. And we teach future art therapists and counselors at Southwestern College here in Santa Fe. And one thing I do want to add about Lyndsey is that she's also a professional singer and musician, very, very talented. And she, over the years, has done a lot of research into sound, into music, how to bring it into the therapeutic work and therapeutic experiences. She'll be sharing some of that great knowledge with you during these webinars. But yeah, hi, Lyndsey.
Hi. And this is Craig. And I think what I'd like to say about Craig is that I really see that he has this remarkable ability to be really creative and bring in people that wouldn't normally be interested in therapeutic or healing kinds of things into the therapy process or into healing processes. Yeah, he's also an actor in the New Mexico local film industry here, and you might have seen him in Longmire or The Messengers. You could check that out. But we're really looking forward to doing this webinar, and yeah, hope to get to know you all a little bit through this.
So what does it look like? Where are people located?
Yeah. If you want to maybe type in where you're located and how you heard about this, or what your work is, we'd love to hear from you. Oh, wow. Okay. So.
Looks like Albuquerque.
Uh-huh.
Hello, Eric. They're coming in fast.
Yeah.
Shamika from Clovis, hi, from Head Start. Thank you for coming.
And Sippy from Clovis Early Head Start as well. Hello.
Oh, Roswell, Leslie, hi, welcome. Western Sky, great company.
And Todd, hello.
Hi, Todd.
Awesome. We've got a lot of Puake.
Hi, Kathy. Hi, Alicia.
And
Sandra.
Nicole.
Stacy, Claudia. Welcome, everyone. Miss Leedy, a raised hand. Let's see. To come carry, wow. Welcome. Head Start. A lot of Head Start. What a wonderful program.
Great. So you want to?
Yeah, so we'll get started here. This is going to be a 4-part webinar series over the next 4 Fridays. And this is kind of an overview of what we'll be looking at and experiencing together during this time. Basically, we wanted to give you an exercise each webinar that's very simple, very practical, that you can do every day to start to entrain your nervous system to be able to cope a little bit better with depression, anxiety, and grief that will come up especially during this time where on a macro level, we're all dealing with something that is so outside of our control. And we're going to dive into polyvagal theory. Another way of saying that is we're going to dive into how our bodies, our nervous systems respond to trauma, to emotional experiences, memories. A little bit about attachment theory. Another way to say that is how do our relationships, and especially our original relationships with caregivers, help create our mind-body dynamic. And this dynamic has a lot to do with our ability to cope with depression, anxiety, and grief, especially during this pandemic. And then, oh, go ahead.
And it can also be rewired if those experiences weren't ideal.
Absolutely. And at the end of each session, we will do a guided relaxation with Lyndsey's music and my voice. It's going to be helpful if you wear headphones or earbuds for that experience. You're going to feel much more immersed in that experience if you can grab some headphones or earbuds anytime before the end of this session today. That'd be great.
And for that piece, to have a comfy place to either sit or even lie down, because you won't need to see the screen at all. It'll just be a hearing experience, but to really get cozy would be really good.
So yeah, that's where we're headed. We'll touch on all of this by the end of these 4 sessions, but let's get started with today's session.
So the piece that I'd really like to explore here is that fight, flight, freeze. And all mammals have an automatic nervous system response to real or perceived danger. And we call that fight, flight, freeze. I'm sure that a lot of you have already heard of those words before. And you can witness this oftentimes in your pets or when you're watching wild animals. You'll notice that, you know, when they hear a noise, they'll freeze or they'll run or fight. And in humans, we actually have the same evolutionary response. It just sometimes looks a little more complex just because we have a little bit more complex brains and nervous systems. So it can sometimes look more like anxiety, like that revved up fight, flight, rage, lots of crying. That's more of that fight, flight kind of experience. And then depression and numbness is when the nervous system just gets so overwhelmed that it kind of goes into shutdown. And so when we're activated in fight, flight, freeze, we have very little access to the more evolved and complex parts of our brain. That's that frontal lobe right here. And it's really what makes us human. The frontal lobe is where we have the ability to empathize with other people's suffering and to also make discerning decisions. And so we thought this was particularly important to talk about because it's really normal that during this current pandemic, a lot of us are activated into fight, flight, freeze responses. And I think it's also, you know, particularly difficult because it's sort of an ongoing perceived threat versus it just being sort of an immediate and then it's over, like a car accident or a tiger. So this is sort of like a looming kind of experience. And so there's almost this, the nervous system having to constantly kind of feel this fight, flight, freeze and be able to function. And so collectively, we're probably experiencing a lot more difficulty being able to do our normal everyday tasks, expending a lot more energy because it's the nervous system's trying to regulate us, keep us safe, and then also being able to access those higher functions that enable us to work productively and to have good relationships with our families and access our creativity. So we're going to teach a way throughout these webinars, a few ways that we can kind of get back. Yeah, is there anything else you want to say, Craig, about that?
Yeah, I'd just like to share a little bit about, you know, when I feel these big, difficult feelings, you know, throughout my history, the freeze response looks so different, right? It's not big, it's not emotive. And a lot of times I would find myself sort of shut down without even realizing it. And that would oftentimes look like monotone voice, no change in the vocal prosody there, and quiet, like I'm fine, everything's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But it is actually very similar to sort of the anxiety response, right, Lyndsey? The same thing is happening in the body. We're just reacting to danger differently.
Yeah. And also have, because of this kind of revved up experience of the nervous system, or this kind of depressed, shut down experience, a lot of the ways that we cope, whether they're healthy or not healthy, are sort of the ways we go to be able to kind of feel a little bit better. And so it's just, to be aware of the ways that we're checking out and the ways that we're sort of trying to numb the experience, and how some of that is normal. So trying to find really healthy ways to do that.
Yeah, totally normal, and oftentimes not by choice. It's just the nervous system's conditioned response to danger or safety. And today we're going to find a way to experience together the idea of allowing the nervous system to come back fully online with calm, presence, connected to each other. And yeah, we'll see how that goes. So first,
So,
we need to talk about the vagus nerve. Lyndsey, would you be so kind?
yeah. So how we get back from fight, flight, freeze is the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve is the largest nerve in the body, and actually expands throughout and touches every major organ. It's constantly sending information about, like, is your environment safe, up to your brain, and your brain is sending that information also to the rest of your organs. The vagus nerve is responsible for our ability to feel calm and safe and connected to ourselves and each other. There are lots of ways to stimulate the vagus nerve, and actually so many of them are a lot of the Eastern kind of techniques, yogic techniques, that are now getting a lot more scientific validation, because this is all related to the vagus nerve. And so throughout this webinar series, we're going to be sharing with you a few really simple techniques that you can practice.
Yeah. Yeah, we're looking for some very practical ways that you can do this every day. So we're going to start with exercise number 1. I do want to say that this is not something that we give you, and if you've never done this before, you go ahead and try to do it when you're starting to get upset, or you're starting to have a panic attack, or you're starting to shut down. It's just not going to work that way. I'm a sports fan, and so I always think about this in sports terms. But I think of Kobe Bryant, who recently passed away tragically with his daughter. What I understand about Kobe Bryant is that every day at practice, he would need to make 400 shots before he could be done with practice. That he did not leave practice until that was achieved. That's a big deal. That's a lot of commitment to his craft, basketball in this case. There's a reason that they don't practice under the lights and thousands of people yelling at you and all the pressure on, because they understand this about the nervous system, that you need to get these practices, whether you're learning to play basketball or whether you're learning to stimulate the vagus nerve. You need a calm, safe environment to get that practice into your body first. The more you do that when you're feeling relatively okay, the more it's going to start to be available when crisis comes, when you're feeling anxious, when you're feeling depressed, when you're starting to shut down. It's not available until it's really practiced in the body, and you get that practice by doing it when you feel kind of okay. So we're going to do this exercise with you today, but I really want to caution you that this isn't something to save in your back pocket for when you're feeling like a panic attack is coming. This is something to practice when you're feeling good every day, multiple times a day, so that when that does come, when that panic attack does come, the body says, oh, I know what to do. I like that. And just like Kobe Bryant, if he's doing 400 shots a day, then game 7, a minute left, down by 2, and he's got to shoot free throws, he's much more likely to be successful in that moment because his body knows what to do. Even with the lights on, thousands of people yelling at you, pressure, jobs on the line, he's most likely going to make those shots. because it's been done so many times in a relatively calm, safe environment, that in that not safe environment, he's able to make that shot. So I hope that makes sense. So we're going to dive into this breathing technique. You can read it here. Basically, I'm going to count to 3. We're going to take a full capacity breath in. So fill up your lungs, big belly breath. You're going to feel your belly expand, your lower back expand, your upper chest expand. And when you get to that point, hold your breath with me for 5 seconds. And then we're going to slowly exhale together. We're going to do that 3 to 5 times. I want you to go ahead and allow yourself to close your eyes. Just let the weight of your eyelids fall shut, because I want you to notice 2 things. As you're doing this breathing with us, I want you to notice the physical reactions in your body. Heart rate, temperature, physical sensations. And I want you to notice your emotional reaction to doing this breathing together. And that can be helpful to do with your eyes closed. On 3, we'll take a big full breath in and hold it for 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Breathe in. Hold. Slowly exhale. Good. Again, in. Hold. Slowly release. Good. Again, in. Hold. Slowly exhale. Nice. Couple more times. In. Hold. Slowly exhale. Good. One more. In. Hold. Slowly exhale. Good. And you're just gently going to open your eyes. I want you to think of this as keeping all the awarenesses you had with your eyes closed. You're just slowly adding in sight and light and a couple new friends. Welcome back. I'd love for you to type into the chat bar so Lyndsey could see it. You know, what did you experience in your body? What physical reactions to doing this breathing together? Also, what emotional reactions are you noticing to doing that breathing together? We'd love to hear from you.
Well, I'll start just to notice that even just that, just 5 breaths really allowed me to be more present and a little less anxious.
Yeah.
Sort of noticed, sort of even when I opened my eyes, more vivid kind of colors. It looks like Eric says some energy and relaxed muscles, which is correct. That is oftentimes an experience that actually it kind of energizes.
Yeah.
While relaxing. Val-desk, but maybe Val is feeling very calm.
Yeah.
Lyndsey says she's feeling very calm, sense of relief.
Yeah, alleviation, yeah.
Adriana says relaxed.
Beautiful.
Another more relaxed, feeling calm, less tension in my shoulders, less tense in my jaw muscles.
Oh, yeah.
Peaceful. It's really amazing that just more peaceful, but just how quickly something like that can work. That's, I think, why this is such a helpful kind of thing to do. And not a lot of people, if you're doing it in public or doing it in a meeting, it's something that people won't really notice you're doing.
Yeah, this exercise number one is just so practical. You can do it anywhere, anytime. Obviously, you want to have your eyes open if you're driving, things like that, but something that nobody even has to know you're doing. And you can bring yourself into that calm and present state in high stress situations if it's practiced in the body beforehand. Again, it's probably not something you're going to notice in your, really important meetings. Oh yeah, I should do that. If you haven't been doing it already, it's not available. So yeah, again, practice this every day. Let's talk a little bit about how this is working in the body. Um, Basically what's happening, you're taking that full capacity breath in. So your lungs are expanding to full capacity. At that point, and not really until then, the lungs are pressing against the vagus nerve, physically making contact, pushing against it. And when you do the slow release and crucially repeat, and you can do it as many times as you want, you're going to feel better and better. I just recommend 3 to 5 as a minimum. You're actually giving that vagus nerve a nice little hello, a nice little massage, while oxygenating your body and all kinds of other things going on. But you're getting literal stimulation of that vagus nerve, short of being hooked up to a machine that is stimulating your vagus nerve. This is what we have available. And so practice this every day, multiple times a day when you're feeling relatively okay. And after a while, after a couple of weeks, you're going to start to notice it's more available. It's more practiced. So if you're getting a little upset, it might be available then. And eventually, it's even going to be available in these nervous system responses that Lyndsey's going to go into later. And that's what I call a miracle, right? When we have a tool available in our bodies, when everything is crashing around us to help us feel calm and present, that's a miracle. And yeah, there's actually more benefits on top of doing this practice that Lyndsey will talk about.
So when we're stressed, when we're in that fight, flight, freeze, we're actually usually breathing from our chest, this very kind of shallow breathing. And so also with all this computer work that we're all doing now, everything's online, posture really matters. When you're kind of hunched over, there's not as much room within your whole core for breathing. And so just the fact of having to sort of sit at our computers and not having great posture could be activating more of a fight, flight kind of freeze in the nervous system because we're starting to shallow breathe. And so something that you can do is just kind of really put a lot of presence on expanding the belly, sitting up a little bit straighter, giving your body a little bit more comfortable kind of places to sit. And so that deep belly breathing signals to the nervous system that you're safe. It sort of hacks the system to say, hey, we're okay. And there's also other documented health benefits to doing this. There's been research that it relieves pain over time, the experience of pain, increased energy and focus in people's lives, improved memory, and improved lung capacity, which then can help a lot of different organs function better.
Yeah, living with a professional singer, I've noticed that since I've done this practice over the last while, actually my lung capacity is improving and I'm able to learn a lot more from Lyndsey about singing techniques. So if you have any aspirations to sing, even just for yourself, this is one step towards that.
Yeah. Yeah, opera singers really do this diaphragmatic breathing where they expand out and you have that much lung capacity to really carry the sound across the amphitheater.
Yeah, one day I'll do that. So we're going to play a video here because we want a way to be able to talk about this in a common language and an easy model. This is Dr. Dan Siegel's hand model of the brain. Basically, he's using the hand to represent the brain to go into more depth about what's happening in relationship to the nervous system, in relationship to safety, danger, perceived safety, perceived danger. So after the video, I'm going to give you just a real quick summary of what we can use carrying forward into these webinars in the future. an easy way for us to discuss this together, all of us. So please enjoy Dr. Dan Siegel.
Hello, my name is Dan Siegel, and it's an honor to introduce you to the hand model of the brain. Sometimes the brain in our head is modeled as a plastic model, like the one you see here, that's 2 times life size. And it's fun to carry a big model around this size because you can take it apart and look at some of the insides and see what's going on. But it's hard to carry this around in everyday life. So what I invented was a model of the brain that you actually have in your hand. My daughter has urged me not to call it a handy model, but it is kind of handy. And the model goes like this. If this brain were oriented in my head in this direction, with this frontal part here behind the forehead, we would create this in our hand model by putting our thumb in the middle, our fingers over the top, and this would be oriented this way. Now, the hand model of the brain is very useful because when you know about the parts of the brain, you can learn how to direct your attention in a way that can get certain areas to not only get activated, but also to start to work together. And you can change both the function and the structure of your brain by knowing about how the brain is structured. So let's walk through these areas of the brain and how they can link together. This hand model of the brain has been useful in classrooms, it's been useful in corporate offices, it's been useful for mediation, for meditation, for people out in the field working with the stresses of working with epidemics, and for people who are just in general trying to improve their lives. So let's go through this hand model and see how it can support your work and your life. If you take your hand and put your thumb in the middle and fold your fingers over the top, this would be the completed model. The top of the brain is called the cortex and would be represented in your fingers. If you lift up the cortex, you'll see beneath it the limbic area, which should have 2 thumbs to be a perfect model, but most of us just have 1. And in this limbic area, you see that there are connections upwards to the cortex and even downwards to the area just below it called the brain stem in your palm. And this whole head brain is connected to the body through a number of regions, including the spinal cord represented in your wrist. Now let's quickly review what these areas do, and you can see how what you do with your mind can change the way the brain functions. If we lift up the cortex and lift up the limbic area, let's begin with the brainstem. The brainstem is the oldest part of this head brain, and I keep on saying head brain because you have neurons around your heart and around your intestines that people are calling the gut brain and the heart brain. And so I'll use the word just brain, but actually it's a hand model of the head brain. The deepest, oldest part of the head brain is this brainstem. It takes in information from the body and it helps regulate things like how you breathe and how you digest food, how your heart functions. In addition, the brainstem has a very important set of regions that create the fight, flight, freeze, and faint response that comes when we feel threatened. So if you're working in a business, for example, or you're in a classroom or you're at home and you feel threatened by what's going on, the brainstem gets involved to create this reactive state. In addition, this brainstem works closely with, if you put your next area down, the thumb region, which is the limbic area. This is a 200 million year old region when we became mammals that works with the 300 million year old reptilian brain, and together they work to create emotion in working with the body. The body, brainstem, limbic area create emotion. The brainstem works with the limbic area to also motivate us, to drive our behaviors. And this limbic area appraises the meaning of things, whether things are significant or not, whether they're good or bad. In addition, there are certain ways memory is divided up and connected through the limbic area with an area you may have heard, the hippocampus, or with its amygdala region. And then on top of that, you have the attachment experience we have as mammals, where we connect with caregivers so that they can protect us and we can be soothed by them, is also mediated by this limbic region, not just in childhood, but throughout our whole lifespan. Now, these limbic functions work closely if you fold your fingers over with the cortex, which is basically making maps. So this region makes maps of the outside world with our eyes in the back, the occipital cortex. Sound comes in the side, the temporal lobe, with the way in which we map out sound. And you even have an area in the front from these second to last knuckles forward called the frontal cortex, also known as the association cortex, where you make associations in thought. And the frontmost part of this frontal lobe here is demarcated by your last knuckles down to your fingernails, and this is called the prefrontal cortex. Now, you may have heard a lot about the prefrontal cortex because it's involved basically in something called integration. It integrates cortex, limbic area, you can see it sits on top of it, brainstem, body, and even the social world together. Now, when you do a practice, let's say like we have a wheel of awareness practice as a form of mindfulness meditation, or do any kind of mindfulness reflective practice, you are integrating the whole system. When you're not integrated, it can become chaotic and rigid. It's like flipping your lid. So instead of living with harmony within yourself and harmony and connection to others, you're literally becoming chaotic with an outburst or rigid and withdrawn. That's demonstrated by literally lifting up your fingers and showing how this prefrontal region is no longer linking the cortex, limbic area, brainstem, body, and the social world. It's become disintegrated. Now, the amazing thing is there's a new set of studies called the connectome studies, which show how the areas of the brain that are differentiated can then become connected. So it's connectome. And what research has shown from the Human Connectome Project is the best predictor of your well-being is how interconnected your connectome is. So anything you can do to understand your hand model of the brain and to bring an honoring of differences and a connection of these areas, you'll be promoting integration, and you'll be giving yourself the gift that keeps on giving. And the amazing thing too is that integration is likely the source of well-being, not just in our bodies, including the head brain, but in our relationships with other people and even with nature around us. Creativity emerges from this integration. Collaboration emerges from integration. So the hand model of the brain reminds us to know the different parts, understand how they may be differentiating themselves if we're angry or getting upset, feeling sad, feeling lonely, making thoughts that emerge, and then opening ourselves to all of these and connecting them together. Whether you do this in the wheel of awareness practice or some other kind of reflective practice, having this brain of yours become more integrated is the pathway toward more well-being in your life, whether it's at work, at home, or in your communities. Integration creates well-being. Thanks for joining me, and goodbye.
Great. So let me just summarize this in a way in which we can have a common language and understanding to talk about these things moving forward in these webinars. So basically, I want everybody to take their hand and raise it up. You're going to place your thumb here. That's going to be your old brain, your amygdala. We're just going to think of it that way, simplify things here. We're going to wrap our fingers around it. This is going to be the latest development in human technology, the frontal lobe. This is where the integration that he's talking about is happening. This is where choice is happening. This is where a lot of freedom on how we treat each other comes, is through this integration. But a lot of times, our nervous systems have been entrained and patterned to see our emotions and our world as dangerous. And that pretty quickly flips our lid. So I want you to think of this as offline. This is not where choice happens. This is where reaction happens out of survival and trying to increase our chances of survival. And this is online. And this is green. All systems go. This is feeling calm, present, connected, vagus nerve stimulation, all the different things we're talking about today. This is yellow. This is danger is present, or perceived danger is present. We have a spike in cortisol or stress hormone at this point. We go into fight and flight pretty quickly from this place. That can look like arguing, could look like shutting down, but more so here, red. This is shut down. This is freeze. This is faint. This is shock. This is our last resort when we feel like we're in danger. We are sort of leaving our bodies, so to speak, not being present. And so moving forward, we've got green, yellow, red, online, offline. And that's going to help us discuss these topics and integrate them and practice them together as we move forward. Thank you.
Craig, is there something I can add to that? Is just that, sometimes when we're used to practicing these things, we'll start to notice that it's sort of like sometimes we're like kind of like this, where it's like a little bit of that frontal lobe still online. We can see that we're really freaked out or activated, and it's really hard. But this says that there's a lot of progress being made. The fact that you're even aware, frontal lobe, aware enough that you're even triggered, says that there's some integration happening. And the practice like the vagus nerve stimulation or mindfulness meditation practices have actually been shown in research to develop more gray mass between this limbic area and the frontal lobe. Like you're literally developing more brain mass between these two, connecting them, like literally creating wiring in your brain when you're doing these kinds of practices over time. And I think that's super cool.
Beautiful. And so now is a very special treat. Lyndsey and I are going to guide you through a relaxation technique. It's not just a relaxation technique using our voices and Lyndsey's music. It's more than that. It's teaching you about these concepts through giving you an experience of these concepts. So if you want to go ahead and take a moment, I'll give you a moment to get comfortable, whether that's in your seat or, a lot of you are probably at home, you can lay down, get your headphones, get your earbuds to really feel immersed in this experience. And then afterwards, we are going to have time for a Q&A, hopefully for a few minutes. You'll be able to type your questions into the chat bar and we'll see what we can get answered. Thank you all. Enjoy. Just go ahead and get comfortable. I want you to let your eyelids fall shut. Let the weight of your eyelids just drop down. And follow the sound of my voice.
On 3, we're going to take a deep breath in, hold it for 5 seconds, and slowly release. We'll do this 3 to 5 times. 1, 2, 3, in, hold, slowly release. Good. Again, in, hold, slowly release. Nice. Again, in, hold, slowly release. Good. Again, in, hold, slowly release. Nice. Last one. In, hold, slowly release. Good. And just let your breathing return to normal. And follow the sound of my voice. we're going to travel 3 different realities: the unconscious observer, the conscious observer, and the loving presence observer. In the first reality, the unconscious observer, it's when thoughts are just happening to you. Life is coming at you, and we're reacting. Let's just be in this first reality. Embrace it and accept it for what it is. Let the thoughts come again and again. And we're going to start to organize these thoughts very gently. We're seeing the thoughts as a train of thoughts passing through us. Each car of the train is a new thought, a new story, a new idea. Giving that thought your full attention, embracing it, and letting it pass through. And the next car on the train arrives, giving this new thought attention, embracing it, and letting it pass through. Again and again, giving each new car, each new thought, your attention, embracing it, and letting it pass through. Starting to notice that the natural flow of this train is to be moving through at a slow pace. Just the attempt of seeing the train of thoughts is bringing us into the second reality, the conscious observer. This is the mind, the watcher, the one who's observing everything and can choose what to bring attention to and how long to bring attention to it. Let's start with the sounds that you can hear, visiting one sound at a time, hearing it, embracing it, and moving on to the next sound. Hearing it, embracing it, and moving on to the next sound or layer of sound. Bouncing around to the different sounds that you can hear, choosing what to bring attention to. And through this conscious observation, you're just naturally going to become aware of your breath without trying to change it too much. Just notice what's happening with your breath. Whether it's going in your nose, your mouth, out of your nose, your mouth. The temperature of that breath on the inhale, the temperature of that breath on the exhale. The feeling of that breath, that wind passing against your skin. Again and again. Through this conscious observation, you're just naturally going to become aware of your body. Specifically, the points of contact between your body and your seat. Every inhale, becoming more aware of those spots. The pressure there, the comfort there, the tingling sensations there. And every exhale, allowing the weight of your body to sink a little bit deeper into your seat. And as we head into the third reality, the loving presence observer, I want to remind you of your birthright. You are not a problem. You are not a problem to be solved, fixed, or changed. There is nothing you need to do to earn love, because you are worthy of love just the way you are, however you are, whenever you are. You are not a problem. You are not a problem to be solved, fixed, or changed. There is nothing you need to do to earn love, because you are worthy of love just the way you are, however you are, whenever you are. And breathe. Solved, fixed, or changed. There is nothing you need to do to earn love, because you are worthy of love just the way you are, however you are, whenever you are. On 3, we'll take a deep breath in. On the exhale, I want you to picture someone who brings you joy. 1, 2, 3, in. see the face of someone who brings you joy. See their eyes staring back into your eyes. The shape of their eyes, the color of their eyes, the shape of their face, their nose, their mouth, their hair, their ears. And this person is very happy to see you. They begin to crack a smile. It becomes one of those big, wide smiles because they're so joyful to be in your presence. See that smile. Let it in. Let it affect your emotions, your body. And something funny happens and they begin to laugh, that unique laughter that they have. They're laughing harder and harder with you. It's almost as if you can hear that unique laughter. Being with that smile and that laughter, let it affect your emotions, your body. Breathe in their loving presence. And as you feel that loving presence, if even for a split second, I want you to imagine that your mind can be that loving presence for your body. That your mind's loving attention can bring itself to accompany your physical sensations from your toes all the way up your legs, all the way up your body to the top of your head. Letting your body know that your mind is right there with its gentle, slow, tender attention. That your mind can be a loving presence for your emotions. From relaxation to calmness to sadness. Any emotion can be accompanied by your mind's loving, kind, slow, gentle attention. May we be full of loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be happy in all the emotions of the body. And
Just think of this as letting that experience wash over you, keeping all the awarenesses you had with your eyes closed, slowly adding in sight and light and a couple new friends. And so at this time, we have 4 or 5 minutes left. If you want to let us know how that experience was for you, or if you have questions, type them into the chat bar. Lyndsey will be able to see that and we can respond. And as you see here, here's some sources. I'd also love to just honor some of our teachers that I can remember. Robert Wise, Natalie Miller, Joanne Dodgenson, Ian McGilchrist, Dan Siegel, of course, Kate Cook.
Southwestern College.
Thank you. Yeah. And
so
then
Lonnie says very relaxing.
Good.
Natalie says, I very much needed that today. I feel very calm and relaxed.
Beautiful. We will make that meditation available on our resources pages here, our Facebook pages. I really recommend you use that as much as you want. Anytime you want to feel calm, present, or if you're trying to fall asleep and having trouble falling asleep. Just had someone text me the other day, I just slept 11 hours after listening to that. So.
Valdesk says, thank you, Natalie, for arranging this for us. Very effective. Erin says, excellent exercises for today. Sarah says, this was great. Thank you for sharing. Was anybody surprised with how something that came up for them or another? Yeah, I know for me, during the loving presence, there was a little bit of an emotional kind of experience, and I know what the meditation is, so I wonder if anybody experienced any surprising things.
Yeah, me too.
Sometimes it's hard to really talk about experiences like that, immediately after following. So Sarah says emotional for me as well.
Yeah, right there with you, Sarah, especially when Lyndsey started singing.
And Wayne Lewis says, I didn't know how badly I needed to relax and weep. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I know so much of the time those emotions are there. It's just we don't have a place to sort of allow that to come through. Sort of feel stuffed up. So I understand that feeling.
Yeah.
How much I carry my emotions in my shoulders. Somebody realized how much that's there. Yeah. Stacy says, very relaxing, great start to the weekend. Calvert says, very relaxed. I truly needed this, very emotional. Thank you. Cassandra says, exercise was amazing.
Yay. I also wanted to thank Natalie Rivera for organizing this and for the Behavioral Health Planning Council of New Mexico and the state of New Mexico for sponsoring this. Thank you. Thank you so much. We're both really honored.
Yeah, and we'll see you next week. Yeah, it's great to do this, and I have to say that, we're too struggling just as much as everyone else, even though we're therapists and we know all these things. It still is tender. It's a scary time and a hard time when so much of our normal life feels different than what we've been used to. So I just really want to thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much. We'll be back next week, same time. Natalie's going to make this recording available for the folks who couldn't make it today online. So people can catch up to join in to webinar 2 next week.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.